There we go. Excellent. We're ready to go. So welcome back. Thank you for joining. I'm going to pin my picture so it should be big for you if you can make it. No, I need to do that on participants. Spotlight. There we go. Right, let's begin. So my thought for tonight is a refreshing session to refresh us in some of the basics, some of the more refined ideas, and then to obviously look at that section of the form as well. So let's go through a warm-up exercise together for about 15-20 minutes. Keep parallel. Shoulder width. Imagine there's a ball between the knees, and that ball is pumping up slightly. Feel how when that ball pumps up, it opens up the knees, it brings the weight onto the outside edge of the foot, and it sets the angle of the thigh bone in the hips in a good way that allows for there to be freedom of movement of the hips. What we don't want is the legs to be locked here or tight here. We want the quad, the inguinal region, to be really loose so that there can be freedom of movement of the hips. That means that when the back muscles soften, the tailbone drops. Every time the knees bend, every time we release the body, the knees bend, the hips seat, and the tail releases under. I want to get that movement being very fluid. So when we settle the knees, we soften the hips, we let the tail drop. Also the shoulders relax. We push up. As we sink down, we bend the knees, we let the knees bend. We see gives room for movement. We give room for movement in the hips, changing, sinking. We open the lower back, feel the weight come into the feet, and then connect the shoulders. We want to have a feeling of the shoulders sitting into the hips, straight down. The shoulders dropping, sitting into the hips. The knees bend. The hips soften, the tail releases, the shoulders drop. All one smooth change, connecting. So we move from an up position into a connected position. These changes take place in the second loosening exercise. It's the same standing position, and it's moving down into this position over 4 swings of the arms. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And by the time I get to the 4th one, I want to be in this position where the shoulders have dropped into the hips, the knees have dropped into the feet, the hips have changed and the lower back's opened. Quickly, it's one smooth movement. In the second loosening exercise, over 4 swings of the arms. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then coming up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So because it's slower, we've got time to feel the knees and the hips soften on the first drop of the arms. Knees and hips soften on the first drop of the arms. Hips and chest soften on the second drop of the arms. Shoulders and head drop on the third, and finally relax and settle into the connected posture on the 4th. Something along those lines. It doesn't have to be as rigid as that. It can be the first one, you just drop. The second one is the knees, hips, but the mind needs to be riding up through the body slowly to make sure that each part of the body does what we ask it to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The legs. 1. Feel. Feel the knees. Feel the hips. Feel the lower back. Feel the abdomen soften. Feel the chest relax. Feel the neck and the back of the head coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure the arms, when they drop, are long. One of the things when we trained with Patrick was it looked like his hands were like so long. They were right down by his knees and really long arms, but it was because his shoulders were so released that his arms felt so long. So on this exercise, you really want to soften your shoulders to give your arm as much length as possible. And it's hanging at the bottom, like a pendulum, hanging at the bottom. Don't do it like this. This is loose, but they're not released. Do it like this, shoulders down. So at the bottom, the whole weight of the arm helps you release your shoulders. The weight of the arm, probably 8 or 9 pounds, drops. Give up the weight of the arm. Let it help you drop your shoulders into the right position. One, 2, 3, and 4. First loosening exercise. Same thing. The knee bends, both knees bend, both hips sit, lower back opens, chest softens, shoulders drop. Soften. The knee bends, the hips soften, the lower back opens, the chest relaxes, the arms drop long, and swing up. Because we're moving our center of gravity across between the legs, we have to make sure that the structure of the leg is accurate. What does that mean? That means that the structure of the leg doesn't collapse. You don't kind of get that Elvis thing going on. I don't know if you've seen the Elvis movie, I haven't, but we don't want the legs to be bandy like Elvis. We want the leg to have structure. So the knee and the toe face the same direction the whole time, and the opening is in the hip joint. We want the knee to be bending, both knees to be bending, both hips to be seating, the lower back to be releasing, the abdomen, shoulders to be dropping, connected. The structure of the leg doesn't want to be tight and holding me up. The structure of the leg wants to be changing the whole time I'm moving on to it. Changing the whole time I'm moving on to it. It doesn't stop changing. The knee doesn't stop bending halfway through and then I press onto it. It bends the whole time. The hips soften the whole time I'm moving on. The lower back opens the whole time. It starts as soon as I start to move across, and the lower back finishes as soon as I come to the end of the posture. These are things that need to be really clear in your practice, so that when you move, it gives you something to train. It really gives you a training idea. And you can ask the question of yourself, is my knee bending the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending the whole time I'm moving across? You can feel it. Is my knee bending the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending the whole time I'm moving? Is my knee bending and my hip folding the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending and my hips softening and folding the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending and my hips softening and folding the whole time I'm moving? Is my knee bending, my hips softening the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending, my hips softening, and my lower back releasing the whole time I'm moving across? Is my knee bending, my hips softening, my lower back opening the whole time I'm moving across? In this way, we start to instill the correct changes in the body. Because we become aware of them, because we become aware of the sensations, because we become aware of the sensation of correct alignment and correct change, we start to instill them in our practice so that after a number of repetitions, we don't need to think about it anymore. The idea is for all our Tai Chi to become natural. Natural means it happens instinctively without having to organize, okay? It's like some people can cook without a recipe, they just fling a bit of this and a bit of that together, and they've got the confidence through doing it lots of times. They don't need to measure the ingredients. Whereas if we're measuring, we're going, is the knee bending? Is the hip changing? Is the lower back opening? And we get the result, just like following a recipe. But it makes it very dry. It makes our practice very dry and very, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What we want, of course, is just simply to fall in. And for all these things to happen, as if they're happening on their own accord. As if they're happening on their own accord. With a small intention, the body changes in the right way. With good training, which means lots and lots and lots of repetitions, repetitions through which we ask the question, repetitions through which we hear the reply to the question, and we make any adjustments, okay? Because if you don't ask the question, if you don't feel what your body's doing, and you don't make any adjustments, you keep doing the same thing again and again and again. And it's quite possible to do Tai Chi for 30 years and be completely unaware of some of the structural things that need to take place in the body. And the structure, I'm learning more and more, the structure is really, really important, because the structure, when the structure is good, it allows me to release completely. If the structure's collapsed, you can't release, because your muscles hold you in that posture, locks you, nothing changes. If the structure's too tight, obviously you can't change. But when the structure's upright, when the structure's organized, the muscles can soften around it. And it's like having a lift shaft, and the lift can drop. You imagine if that lift shaft was not parallel, or that lift shaft was at an angle, the lift couldn't go down, it would get stuck in the lift shaft. But when the lift shaft is completely straight, up and down, without any hindrances, or another example might be water in a pipe. When the pipe is clear and hasn't got a chink in it, the water can go straight through and flow through. And the structure of the body, it's like the pipe. The flowing through is like the water inside the pipe, like the muscles of the body changing. The joints changing, the knee softening, the muscles softening to allow the knee to change, the muscles softening to allow the hip to change, the muscles softening to allow the lower back to open, the muscles softening to change the abdomen, the muscles softening to open the chest and drop the shoulders. And our practice is to make these changes synchronized. Synchronized means when one part of the water flows, it creates space for the next bit of the water to fill the gap that's left. Ideally, there's no gap, just one flow of movement. We don't want the knee to move, then the hip, then the lower back, then the chest. That's a stage of practice. What we want is one flow through the whole body. And when I let go along the structure of the body. And the body flows and moves and changes. So we use the loosening exercises to acquaint ourselves with the principles we're working with, and to make sure, to the best of our understanding and ability, those principles taking place in every move. So we need to be focused, our mind needs to be clearly listening, clearly asking questions, clearly feeling the sensations in the body, and moving at a speed that allows me to feel what I'm doing. The third loosening exercise. Turning takes place and finishes when the hand's at the top. Turning of the waist, the hand at the top, together. The turning square draws on the hand. Turning, dropping one hand, seating the wrist, the other hand, wrist comes up. This is the external movement and the external timing of the exercise. Inside is exactly the same. The knee bends, the hip softens, the lower back opens, the chest relaxes. Exactly the same, presses onto the ground. So be clear in your own thought process what you're looking for when you practice. Be clear that you're looking for smooth movement of the waist. Then try and feel it. Staying in the center, clear movement of the waist by softening the hips. And another question, as you turn the hips, keeping them level, bring the movement into the arm. Finish the movement of the hips at the same time as the hand comes up. Square, turn, square, turn, square, turn. This makes the exercise quite dry because it's about timing, getting it right. It's like playing scales of the piano. What we want to do is play the music. We want these movements to be natural. Natural means we don't have to think it through like a recipe. We just do it and the body responds. But first of all, we have to get the recipe right many, many, many times until we can be sure that just doing it naturally, the body does the right thing. This is just the outside movement. The inside movement's the same. The knees bend, the hips change, the lower back opens, the chest relaxes. Connected. Connected. The outside turnings, the outside movements, which is the body moving through space, combines with the internal changes. Knee, hips, lower back, chest softening, connected. Timing is the same. The question you ask is where you listen in the body. What you listen for is the question you ask. Is my lower back opening? Is my lower back opening? Is my lower back opening? And I'll put my focus on my lower back. Is my weight in the same part of the foot? I'll put my focus in the foot. Is my knee bending the whole time I'm turning and moving? I'll put my focus in the knee and the hip softening. Can you see how I build up my ability by practicing methodically and by practicing deliberately, and by making sure that when I come to an exercise, I'm not just doing this. No, thinking about something else, thinking about what I'm going to be eating later tonight after I finish practicing, thinking about what I'm feeling my body as I move. I'm asking a particular question. I'm analysing if that's taking place in that practice. And I'm making my practice really count and be really clear what I'm working on. So at any time I notice, that's really weird. When I move there, actually my knees stop bending, but my hips are carrying on. Knee stops bending, the leg becomes a bit stiff, and then I carry on moving. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the knee to keep bending the whole time I'm moving. Let's try and do it again. Still doing it. Come on, knee. Wake up, knee. Play the game. Now with a bit more focus and a bit more feeling what's going on and the sensation in the knee. Now when I turn, my knee's bending the whole time. That's interesting. I thought it was. Can you see how you instill and look at your practice and understand it from the inside? Is my lower back changing? How much is it changing? How smoothly is it changing? Does it start changing the moment I begin to move? Does it finish changing when the movement finishes? How released and connected does it make me feel? So all these questions that come have an answer. If you don't ask the question, you don't know the answer. So whatever form you're doing, whatever part of the form you're doing, whatever posture you're doing, there are principles of movement within it. It doesn't matter what the posture is so much. What matters is that these principles are being gradually honed away and honed, just like you'd sharpen a knife, honing the edge of that blade sharper and sharper, more and more refined. Let's go through the form together. I'm just going to check the time. It's a longer session than I wanted to do, but let's go through the form together. Structure of the body. So important that I spend time lifting the sternum, dropping the chin, lifting the back of the neck, taking the tension out of the body, letting the whole weight of the body blend with gravity, pressing into the feet. Let the body be as loose as possible. Really feel any places in the body you feel you can relax. Bend the knees, seat the hips, open the lower back, drop down, pass the connection to the right foot. Bend the knees, seat the hips, open the lower back, move across to the left. Bend the knees, seat the hips, open the lower back, seat the wrists. Turn. Sit back, bend the knee, seat the back hip, open the lower back. Move in, 50-50 posture. Facing 3 o'clock, sink. Rebound. Sink and turn, bending the knee, seating the hip, opening the lower back, dropping the shoulders, turn. Move in. Square, sink and rebound. Sink and turn, the knee, the hip, the lower back. Move in. Square, structure posture, sink, rebound. Square, sit back. Turn open, turn back, 50-50 as the wrists touch, sink, rebound. Into the 50-50, sink, rebound, sink, back, turn. Sink to the right foot, the knee, the hip, the lower back, the shoulders, connect. Single whip to 9 o'clock. Sink, rebound. The knee, the hip, the lower back, connect. Lifting hands. Shoulder stroke. White crane spreads wings. Turn. Brush left knee, twist up. Into the center. Sink. Press onto the ground, rebound. Drop onto the left foot, the knee, the hip, the lower back, the shoulders, connect. Brush left knee, twist up second time, into the center. Sink and connect, rebound. Sit back. Step forward, deflect downwards, into Sept, into the center. Sink and connect, rebound and touch. Push into the center, sink and connect, rebound, push. Cross hands. Sink the knee, hip, the lower back, shoulders. Cross hands. Drop onto the right. turn. Pass the weight to the left. Step right to 4 o'clock. 4:30, move in. Sink, connect, rebound. Sit back, press to 4:30. Sit back, push to 4:30. Now, single whip is going to be exactly 180 degrees behind me, 10:30. Single whip is going to be to the corner behind me from push, which is exactly the same as when we do it earlier in the form. When I'm moving from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, it's exactly 180 degrees. This is 180 degrees. So I start off facing 4:30. I sit back, turn. Now I'm facing 1:30. Turn back, 4:30. Turn, 1:30. Drawing the foot, step to 10:30. Move in, square and sink and rebound. Now I'm doing single whip facing 10:30. So from here, I sit back. Now I'm all over the right foot, turn. Turn back. Step left, move on to it. Step right to 10:30. Move on to it, keep turning. Sink and drop the hands palm down. Now I'm facing approximately 8 o'clock. And I want to turn back to 10:30. So as I turn, I bring my left fingers in, all the weight onto the right foot, jab. 10:30. 9 o'clock. Punch under elbow. Just to there. So go from cross hands. Sit back. Step to 4:30. Move in. Square to 4:30. Sit back. Press to 4:30. Sit back. Push to 4:30. Sit back. Single whip to 10:30. Sit back, left palm up, right palm down. The fingertips stay where they were, and the arm and shoulder moves away from it, so you end up with the arms long. Turn. All the weight is on the right, so I can step left. Keep turning the body. Step right, keep turning the body. Move on to the right foot, keep turning the body. Hands drop. Turn and jab. All the weight on the right, punch on the left. From the single whip, you sit back, all the weight's onto the right foot. First, you turn clockwise, and then the next move with the step are going to be all anti-clockwise. So you turn back, step left, keep turning, move on to it, step right, keep turning, move on to it, fully onto the right foot until you finish 100% on the right foot. All of the left foot's just there. Turn and jab, 100% on the right foot. Punch under elbow, 100% on the right foot. Have a go from the single whip. I'll have a look at your movement and then any questions. You can ask any questions while you're doing this section. I'll just have a look at your movement from the single whip.
So when we jab, Luke, we've got the right weight on the right foot all the time from the start to the end.
Well, you're stepping left and then you're stepping right. So here, my weight's on the right foot now. I'm stepping left, my weight's moving onto the left foot. I'm stepping right, my weight's fully onto the right foot, and it stays on the right foot now. I jab and the weight's on the right foot. It stays on the right foot while I go into punch under elbow.
Yeah, okay. So I was trying to keep the weight on my left.
No, it's a very quick, it's almost like a waltz sort of walking step onto the left foot. So once you sit back away from the hands and all your weight's in the right, you turn. When I turn back now, it's a very quick step on the left. I step, move onto it and step right. So it's like you're walking very quickly onto your left foot. Your left foot enables you to keep turning. The hips need to keep turning once they start to turn anti-clockwise.
Yeah, so you sort of, with a step, you're moving forwards, aren't you, with a step?
Yeah, yeah, it's unlike any other step in the form, that step.
Yeah.
It's a kind of active step that really just enables your hips to keep turning. Yeah. Think you're kind of moving forwards to step behind somebody. To put yourself into a better position, more advantageous position.
I suppose you're as you're doing the jab, you're kind of sinking into the right foot.
Yeah, yeah, you're sinking onto the right as you jab.
Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah. So a couple of points that I'm just picking up on by looking at what people are doing. I'll do it facing the camera so you can see me. From single whip, which is out to the side, let your index finger stay in exactly the same place. So if I was to put my hand against the wall here, when I sit back, my finger stays in exactly the same place. If the hand turns over, don't move and wave your hand about. The same with the hook. When you sit away from it, don't move and wave the hand about. First sit back, the hands are long. Then turn the whole body as a unit, clockwise. Then turn the whole body as a unit anti-clockwise. And as you turn, you're drawing down and sinking, and the hands start dropping and turning over. So on that anti-clockwise, you're spiraling in, step right and sinking. So you sit away from the hands, you turn one way, you turn the other way and start sinking. Sink onto the left, sink onto the right, continue sinking until you're fully 100% on the right. Then sink into the right as you turn and jab, lift slightly and sink back onto the right. So from the jab, you lift slightly and then sink again. Push the left heel forwards. There's no weight in the left heel. Are there any other questions with that move? It's an odd move. It's unlike other moves of the form.
Hi, Luke. With the
Yeah, hi,
Da-
Kat.
with the Daoist Immortal, is there any issue at all with that move, or is there none? Like, for
No,
instance,
there's none.
no
There's
issue.
none. No, there's no issue. The jab is an issue, but it's an issue through sinking rather than a rebounding issue. Different sort of concept, but no, it's basically you're stepping round somebody to put yourself in a better position. So it's more like a stepping posture that gets you into a better position. So what we should look for is stability in the movement. Okay, so what you don't want to be doing is falling as you move. So the movement here, when you're on the right leg, your turning wants to be such that it doesn't tighten you and make you unstable. Your turning wants to be sinking turning that stabilizes you. So your whole body is spiraling downwards. You're not throwing yourself out of alignment as you move and turn. So from the single whip, let's do it together. From the single whip, sit back and find your alignment over the foot. When you turn, you're going to be softening your knee, softening your hips, softening your lower back, and sinking your shoulders as you turn. So you stay stable as you turn. When you turn back, it doesn't throw you out of alignment and it doesn't tighten your legs. You turn back. Then you can step left because you're still sunk on the right. When you move on to the left, you need to be sinking your knee, sinking your hips, sinking your lower back, stabilizing on the left, step right, sinking onto the right, your knee, your hip, your lower back, your shoulders stabilizing onto the right foot. So really try and do that movement in a way that keeps you stable. And the way to stay stable in Tai Chi is to keep changing and to keep your structure. Right? It's very easy to do that move quickly, but be completely out of alignment, and then rely on tightening the muscles to hold you, stop you falling over. And what we want to try and do is keep changing, keep the fluidity in the joints and changing to give us the stability and the freedom to move, not the wobbling that we get when the muscles are tight. Have a go a couple of times. Do it nice and slowly. I'm glad you asked this one, Jim, because it's a complicated move and it's an interesting move. The finishing position is this. Your right foot is facing 10:30. All your weight is 100% on the right foot. The left ball of the foot is just touching the ground. There's no weight in the ball of the foot. Your hands are in front of the body, palm down. So your left foot is facing for 10:30. Your hips are facing probably about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Your hands are down in front of the center of the body, palm down. They're not too wide, palm down in front of the center of the body. And your hands, everything lands onto your right foot, sinking and spiraling down. The hands at the same time, arriving at the same time as you finish sinking and stabilizing. Sinking, stabilizing. Let's just do that last little bit together, that last bit. Moving on to the right foot, turning, sinking, stabilizing. All the weight on the right foot, turn, sink, and stabilize. Can you see it's very similar to the first loosening exercise? The hips opening in exactly the same way the hip opens in the first loosening exercise. The body's sinking in exactly the same way as the first. If I did the first loosening exercise like this, it would be very similar. Instead of dropping the hands this way that we do in the first loosening exercise, if I did it this way, it would be like that movement, dropping in here. First loosening exercise with the hip joint opening, the knee bending, the hips seating, the lower back opening, the shoulders dropping, everything finishing together. Then turn and jab. Think of it like the first loosening exercise and you'll get the feel of it because you've done the first loosening exercise so many times. And the hands in front of the center of the body, not too much to the side, in front of the body. So wherever the body's facing, about 8 o'clock, the hands in front. Then when you turn and jab to 10:30, the hands are in the right place to do the jab. The right hand turns over as you turn to 10:30. The right hand turns over, pulled by the right shoulder. And the left hand scoops and jabs. It's like you're swimming through water. It's the fingertip lead, it scoops and jabs. When you jab, the whole hand is like a striking tool, quite straight, and you're jabbing either under the armpit or into the throat, possibly the eye, possibly the temple, possibly places to jab are under the arm, the throat, here, just under the nose or the eye socket. That's the jabbing. And the whole hand is very, very straight and structured, but not limp and not overly tight, just nicely structured and straight. And when you turn, the fingertips are leading as if they are scooping round under a ball and coming up the other side. So the fingers in a circle, and it's all to do with the turning of the hips here. That turns, drops the hand, turns and jab. And the right hand turns over. That's all the right hand does, from palm down to palm up. The hips turn, the shoulder draws, and the hand turns over. Jab. Both hands palm up. And then lift, the hands are turning over, and sink. Punch under elbow, fingers on the center line at the height of the throat. Knuckle of the right hand, index finger on the elbow. Heel of the left foot on the ground, just misses the right. Okay, so you've got the external inches of the form that have to be accurate, where the body is. And then you've got the structure of the external frame of the body, and you've got the changes on the inside to try and coordinate all those changes together. Any questions or observations of what you feel in doing it? Okay. Good. So when you take let's just have a break for a minute. If you want to put your, if you want to unmute. When you take a posture like that one, for instance, Daoist Immortal, okay, there are a number of different things you could look at, right? So it's a complicated move. There are a number of different things. How do you know what to look at? How do you know for yourself what's worth practicing, where you should be putting your focus, and what you should be looking at in your movement, in your Tai Chi, so that you can progress? Because there are about a million things to look at, right? And we can't possibly manage them all at the same time. So the first one, when it's the form, the first one is, where's the weight? Where's the direction? Get the structure of the posture right to start with. Get organized where your hips are going to be pointing, where your gut focus is pointing, where the jab goes towards, where your weight is, how your movement takes place externally. That's the first thing. Then you can start to simplify as you move into those postures. Am I upright? Keep the extra. Is my body in structure as I move through those postures? Is my head dropping? Is my body tightening anywhere? My hips going out? Am I managing to do it in a relaxed way that flows and that keeps my structure clear? And my shoulders tight anywhere? Then you can look at, is the body connected? Are the movements coming from the turning of the center? Or am I just moving my hands by themselves? So you get the body connected, you get it structured, and you get it accurate in its movement. This is what I teach beginners. Then you start to look at the internal changes. Once you've got the frame of the posture right, once you've got the structure of the body right, once you've got the body upright and connected, then you can start to look at the internal changes. Is my knee bending the whole time I'm sinking? Are my hips softening and my knee bending the whole time I'm sinking? Is my lower back connected into that sinking as well? Are my shoulders connected into that sinking? So can you see the layers that you kind of start to ask? And if you start to ask those sorts of questions too early on, you may find that your structure's all over the place, but you're looking at the internals. So you're kind of focusing in the wrong place. You need the basics to be in place, the main cogs to be in place, and then you can kind of go to the refinements of it. It's that way your Tai Chi improves, and you start to know what to look for in your practice. You start to have a grip of, what the hell should I be working on? Because what a lot of people do is they just go through the form, because the form's there, it's structure, one movement comes after the next, just go through the form. You have to have a question as you go through each move, a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve in that form, and then relax into it. Like a really good connection to what you're feeling, what you're sensing in your body, and a really good mental focal point that will keep you really centered, rather than doing a bit of this, a bit of that. Okay. So my plan for the term, we will carry on going through the form, go from punch under elbow next week. I will answer as best I can any of the questions you have. And we're going to start to look at rebounding and the connection in the center a little bit as well. That's what my hope is for this term. Good. Any thoughts or questions or anything you want to look at this? You signed up for the term. Anything you particularly want to get out of it?
Well, just, obviously it's not nothing. It's a matter of slowly. It is quite slow, but slowly developing.
Yeah.
Certainly that posture, I was, like you said there, I was trying to be too internal when I haven't got the external,
Yeah.
the basic cogs in place.
Sure. You'll find it makes a big difference. And you have to know when to say, I've got to go to really basic beginners things. But now when I come to another move or something, I can actually go a bit deeper with it and go more with the kind of intermediate advanced stuff. Whereas if you start to go with the intermediate advanced stuff too quickly, it hasn't got the foundation. Yeah. Sorry, Christine, you're going to ask something or say something then?
Yeah, for me, over the summer, I've noticed my arms have been particularly poor. I've been practicing up in the bedroom with a mirror happened to be in front of me. And it was surprising how I thought I was doing the arm positions correctly. And in fact, in quite a few moves, they're not right. And one of them was Repulse Monkey, where I realised that my hand was in the wrong position when it came back, and it was because my elbow wasn't high enough.
Okay.
And it took me a while to work it out, but as soon as I saw what was happening in front of me, I could sort it out. So I think that is quite a focus for me in lots of movements of the arm. The other one is I don't think I extend my arm enough in some moves. So everything I do, I'm checking on the arm positions particularly.
Yeah. The arms want to be full, but not held and tight. So, like when you open up the first loosening exercise, make sure your fingers are as far away as they can be, that you really open right up, but not tight. And then you really include that whole area right round you, your big sphere. Then your fingertips go right out to the extension of your big sphere, and with it the focus of the mind goes out to the edges of the big sphere as well. And it's important for not letting our Taiji be too kind of like internalized and small. It wants to kind of fill a bigger space, take up a bigger space.
Yeah. I think sometimes you try and be too relaxed. You think it's got to be, but then that's the danger of that is you become floppy.
Yeah, exactly that, and then you collapse, and floppiness is collapsed. And with it's funny, with the very first teacher I had, we used to he'd say, we'll do a form now as if you've had a couple of glasses of wine, in a floppy way. And it was really good for letting it all kind of, be loose and flowing. But I realize now, from a structure point of view, it was absolutely useless. And that some people kind of shy away from structure, but structure, as you know, is the yang aspect, and you need it in order to be really soft. You need to have structure, because the structure and the organization of the body, the external frame of the body, allows things to melt on the inside. Like that lift shaft, you need a really clear lift shaft in order for the lift to drop down clearly without falling, with a smooth travel. And your body is like that, because when your body is upright, everything flows off it like water. All the muscles that drip off the frame of the body. That's can you only really feel that when you're upright. If you're holding on too much or you're collapsed too much, it stops that movement taking place. So the other thing I was going to say is that sometimes, to help see what you saw in a mirror video is good. Taking a video of yourself just with your phone is really revealing and scary. Yeah, it's worth doing. It's worth doing once in a while. And if if you want any feedback on your own form more specifically than I give in these classes, you can always film a part of your form and send it to me. I'll have a look, and if it's going to take me, you know, more than 10 minutes, I'll kind of send you a bill for it. But if it's just a quick kind of have a look at this and let me know, then I'm happy just to have a quick look. If it's like a proper in-depth, you know, hour of one-on-one, then obviously I charge for that sort of thing. But as a one-off, have a look at this posture, can you give me any feedback on what I'm doing with my arms? I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah. Right. I will send you the recording tomorrow. I just wanted to say that next week, I'm in Ireland next week, and I don't know what the hotel, or it's not a hotel, it's a bed and breakfast. I don't know what it's going to be like, if there's enough room. I don't know what the Wi-Fi connection is going to be like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pre-record, which I'll send you a link for. So there'll be a lesson for you to watch and join in with. And if on the night I can do a live one from where I am, I will do, and then you'll have both. If I can't do a live one on the night, then you'll have the pre-recorded lesson. Okay, that's the best I can do, because I've got to go and teach sculpture in Ireland next week, and I'll be away Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, good. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Luke.
Luke.